Want to give them Hairfest tickets away beginning of the show. The pair of Hairfest tickets Thursday night, a week from Thursday. Want to give the Hairfest tickets away to start off the show? Get it out of the way.
All right, what's going on? It's 3 o'clock. The Trailblazers are preparing for Summer League action. They play their first game Friday night in Las Vegas against the Golden State Warriors. Tip-off is at 8 on ESPN2. The NBA announced the groups for the 2025 in-season tournament. The Blazers will be a part of West Group C with Houston, Denver, Golden State, and San Antonio. And the Thunder and Chet Holmgren have reached agreement on a 5-year, $250 million rookie extension. From baseball, the Yankees have designated DJ LeMahieu for assignment. He is owed $22 million through next season. Checking the scoreboard right now, a final in 10 innings. The Dodgers have now dropped 6 straight. The Brewers get them in 10 innings by a score of 3-2. White Sox 2, Blue Jays 1, and the Mets and Orioles were postponed. We got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing coming up next. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio at 4:20. Aaron Fentress, the Oregonian, at 5:20.
It's time for the Rip City Drive, brought to you by Goldberg Jones. Divorce for Men, 1-800-DIVORCE. Featuring the crazy and often irrational longtime Portland radio vet, Chad Doing.
He delivers to the Atlanta product, and Butler, it's a deep drive, right center field. Eli White back at the track, turning, and it's off the wall. It's in play. Butler's at second. This might be an inside the park home run. He's at third, turning at third, losing his helmet, comes to the plate. There'll be no throw. And the kid from Atlanta on the first pitch of the bottom of the first inning hits an inside the park home run. Pitch on the way, and Kurtz hits a drive to right, way back. Eli White at the track, right to the wall. He will watch it fly, and it's a grand slam.
3-1, and the pitch to Judge. Swung on, hit the right field. Got some carry, backing up Dylan Moore. He's at the wall, it's gone.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
All right, you got to take a listen to Krupp and Kipe on the Giants broadcast last night. Inside the park home run from the pitcher, incredible.
Daly, it's a high drive. Way out into right field. It is off the bricks. This game is tied. Bailey's on the move. Bailey's on the move. And this game is over.
That's incredible. That's one of the best broadcast teams in all of baseball right there. Krupp and Kipe with the Giants. What's going on, my friends? Chad Doing, Rip City Drive. I can tell you that our good friend Brian Noe of Fox Sports Radio, he's going to join the show coming up at 4:20. I like to check in with Noe just to see how he's doing coming off the stroke. I want to make sure he's still healthy and feeling good. I've been texting with him the last couple of days. We keep a running checklist. He got me on this. Anyone that uses the phrase, I could care less, instead of the proper way to say it, I couldn't care less, we always send each other notes about people that butcher this, and I think it's hilarious. In fact, my guy, Kenny Dillingham, head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils, I caught him at Big 12 Media Days saying I could care less. That's a red flag. I'm a big fan of Kenny Dillingham, but when you go to I could care less, it's a red flag. So Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio at 420. And then I want to talk Trailblazer basketball and Oregon Duck football with Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian. We'll do that at 520. If you want to reach out to me, the telephone number is 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. That's your telephone number. You can find me on social media at Chad and Rip City. You can also listen to the show live via the iHeartRadio app. You can podcast the show there. And you can also go to YouTube. We stream all of our local shows live. So if you want to check out the video and listen to the show and follow along that way, that's fine too. Just go to Rip City Radio 620 on YouTube, subscribe, and then boom, you'll have access to everything you could possibly want. Again, that telephone number, 503-248-0620. A big thanks to Chris Burkhart for sitting in this chair the last couple of days. And a big thanks to Michael Shacker for the assistance. I just got back last night from my road trip with Isaac, where we ventured down to the northern part of California. We went to Corning. We spent some time in Redding. We drove down to Sacramento before we came back. And I can tell you that Corning, California is not a destination place. It's a small town on the side of the freeway, but Isaac had a blast. He had a wonderful time. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If you're looking for a little more excitement in your life, if you feel like you need something to give you a jolt, to make you feel alive, so you can feel like you live again, so you can feel free, get into a passenger seat of a automobile with your autistic son driving, because nothing touches all the senses like that. He did pretty well. He drove all the way down, and it was a long trip down. It's over 7 hours of drive time, but by the time you make all the stops, hit the rest stops, get food, it's about a 10-hour process. And we got back late last night. He drove most of the way on the way back as well. So he's doing well. He's a good driver. For the most part, I still have to pay attention to all the things I think he may not be paying attention to. And I am trying to help him have a better feel for, what's going on around him. He's very focused on what's in front of him. But I was trying to help him, learn how to monitor the cars behind him, get a feel for what might be happening in front of him so you can anticipate. So that was a process, but we did have a good time. And one mission that my dad gave me when we told him we were going to go to Corning, they're known down there for olives, and they have a bunch of olive groves. And that's one store. It's probably the most famous site. I think it's a historical building down in Corning. They have this place called the Olive Pit. And it's a nice little place. They got a little restaurant inside where you can get something to eat, but they specialize in their olive products, where you can purchase cutting boards made of olive wood. They sell different types of olives. Obviously, you can get really good olive oil there. Isaac, for whatever reason, loves the store. So he got a bunch of different items there. But my dad is real big with, like, wood carving. He likes to use the wood lathe. My dad is basically a jack of all trades. He can do everything. He can build things. He built a house at one time back in Oklahoma, our country house that I spent time in as a youngster. He did that for my mom. He can fix automobiles. He can weld. He can do this. He can do that. He's really good with woodworks. Well, he's really taken on this whole process of creating different things with his wood lathe. He's also really good with carvings. He makes, he did this whole set of, figurines out of wood. And he turned them all into golf figures, like old school golf characters with the knickers and the old school, gear. And then my mom's really good at painting. So my dad would carve it and get it all ready. And then my mom would paint them up. And lately my dad's been making different types of bowls, vases. He just looks at the piece of wood and tries to come up with something creative that he wants to do. And so he asked me if I could find him, a couple of good pieces of olive wood, I guess because It's easier to work with, but I guess it makes, really good, vases and bowls and the different type of, things he likes to make. So before Isaac and I left Corning, I looked up a couple of different olive groves on the map, and it was about, 5 miles from the highway inward. And so we drove out to this olive grove, and it's a big patch of land. So we were driving, and finally we came up on this little dirt road that came up to the end of the olive grove, and I looked over and saw a wood pile. And, of course, we're out in the middle of nowhere. It's like 102 degrees outside, so it's not like there's a lot of people out bumping around out in the country. So I got out, and there was no one else around, so I stepped over the fence that was there, walked over to the wood pile, and it's not like it wasn't a firewood pile. It was just a scrap pile. And so I was able to pick out a couple of nice pieces of olive wood, and Isaac popped the trunk. And so he popped the trunk, and we put a couple of pieces of wood in, and I was able to hand deliver that to my pops. So he'll be able to make whatever he makes. But that was a good time. The road trip, I would say this about a road trip. I'm like everyone else. I would much rather fly to a destination, not because I enjoy flying, I don't, or the entire process of parking at the airport, getting through security, getting on an airplane that you have no control over, the grip session. There's a lot of gripping that goes into the whole flying experience. I just like it because you save time. Like if I'm going to go to California, let's say I'm going to LA or I'm going to head down to Phoenix, I can get there in 2 hours or less and be able to save all that time on the road. That's how I like to operate. And I know most of you are the same way. But for Isaac, he would much rather get out on the road, one, because he loves automobiles. He loves being out on the open road. He just prefers to be in vehicles. He likes road trips. And so we get out on the road and we cruise out to these different towns. I guess what it's been nice is the ability to get out and see different parts of the country that normally I would never pay attention to. And until Isaac came along and started demanding that we do road trips together, I wouldn't have known. You get a chance to see different things because you're driving across the countryside. So it's good. The other thing I like, too, is when you're on the open road, and maybe some of you parents have experienced this before, but, when you're sitting in a car with a child, your son or daughter, both sets of eyes are looking forward. So you're not looking in each other's eyes. Conversation, I believe, with the kids in those type of settings tends to be a little more open, a little more free conversation. You're not looking someone in the eyes. There's less intimidation going on. And so I enjoy the conversation. And Isaac, for the most part, did really well. It's always a challenge anytime you're doing anything with someone that has special needs. And with Isaac and his autism, it can be challenging, often. And when you stop at a restaurant, you just have to know going in that he's going to get up and walk around and talk to everyone in the restaurant. It's embarrassing for me, but for him, that's how he connects with people, and he loves it. And I know some people I can tell just by their body language he annoys. Some people are very open and welcoming to his friendliness. So that's the process. That's what we did. One day we drove down. He wanted to go to Sacramento. So we drove down through Sacramento and checked out some different areas down there. Sacramento's like, I don't know if it's the armpit of California, but it's probably the armpit of California. Not the best part, but Isaac had a fun time driving through there, getting exposed to some rush hour traffic, which was good for him and his driving and his skills, developing those. We met some nice people when we stopped to eat down there that Isaac thought was pretty cool. So, yeah, the experience was good. So that's where I've been the last few days, a little road trip with Isaac. A lot of different things I want to touch on today, including something to keep an eye on with LeBron James and the Dallas Mavericks. It sure seems like LeBron might be headed to Dallas. That's what it seems like. And I'll tell you what happened today that would lead me to believe that. I want to touch on young Hansen as he prepares for Summer League action. The Blazers will be taking on the Warriors Friday night down in Vegas at 8. You can watch it on ESPN2. And I do want to get into some football, especially with the Big 12 Media Days. I'm a big fan of Kenny Dillingham, head coach with Arizona State. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio at 4:20. And then we'll talk with Aaron Fentress at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so this is what happened. I was in the middle of some sort of zone during the commercial break because my buddy, Casey Beefwater, had just sent me tickets for a big concert I agreed to take my daughter and some of her friends to this weekend up in Seattle. And then he walks in. So it's like the guy that just saved me like $400 walks in the studio, and I smile and say, "What's up?" My man, Casey Beefwater's in studio. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? I'm happy to help your wallet.
Well, I appreciate that. So this is obviously not my genre, right? I'm more into classic rock. I love yacht rock. I love music from the 70s and early 80s like you do. So what am I getting myself into with Playboy Cardi and The Weeknd?
Well, Playboy Cardi, he's going to be, your standard hip-hop fella. Boy, how old do I sound saying that? And then The Weeknd, man, he's been kind of a mainstream top 40, used to be attached to Selena Gomez.
Yeah, so I'll recognize some of the tunes.
Yeah, you most definitely will. He's had a good run. You're going to see a great show. Like production-wise, I think it's going to be pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And it's one of those shows, too. I love summertime shows because it's outdoors at Lumen Field. So it's going to be a big crowd, and the weather's supposed to be spectacular.
Yeah, plan ahead on that parking. Plan ahead on that parking. That's all I can say.
Well, it's going to be funny because the girls will complain. I learned from my dad. I don't know if it was the same for you, but when we could finally scrounge up the dollars to go to a game, and back in the day when my dad took me to my first Broncos Seahawks game up at the Kingdome, it was like $40 a ticket or $38 a ticket. That's a big deal. But I remember my dad parking a long ways away from the Kingdome that looked like it was close because it was a big building, but it was way off in the distance. And as we're walking, he goes, "I know it seems like a long walk," but he goes, "There's just some things in life, and you'll learn this as you get older, that you don't want to pay for." And he goes, "Parking prices around stadiums are ridiculous." And it was bad back then. It's even gotten worse. And so it stuck in me. And so now it's like I hate paying for parking, and I'm willing to park a long ways away to walk. I got that from my dad. He handed it down.
It's good. It's not, look, that's financial responsibility. That is good stuff. And my first Monday Night Football game that I went to, parking was $40. And it blew my mind that parking was $40. Now I think that's the average.
So many things I want to talk about with you. Good news, your walk that you did to raise awareness for autism. Every time I talk to you, you've got more people that are looking at next year's walk to raise more awareness for autism. You've got different people that want to get involved. So I'm just happy to hear that you've got more people that are taking interest and wanting to attach themselves to something that you and I hold so close to our heart.
Yeah, I think the cool part is it just comes out of conversation. And you're simply telling a story about this cool thing that happened. And they hear that story and go, "Oh, man, we need to exchange some info because I think we want to get on board with this thing." And so that's exciting. And, like we talked about before, never in a million years did I anticipate that it would get the traction that it got. So if it stays on the trajectory that it's on right now, the sky's the limit. That's very exciting.
Now, does your son have his driver's license?
He does not. He has no interest in it. To speak of, and every time it comes up, he just goes, "I'll drive like SpongeBob." And if you've all seen that episode where SpongeBob wrecks into everything, that is his philosophy on driving.
That's so good.
I don't want to drive like SpongeBob.
Well, Isaac does have his license. We just went on a little road trip down to California. I let him pick locations. He loves road trips, right? He doesn't want to fly. He wants to be in a vehicle, and he wants to go to different places. So he picked, of all places, Corning, California, which is a small nothing town, not too far south from Redding. And so we got a Best Western there right off the freeway, and we stayed there for a few nights. And he drove from Vancouver all the way down, and then he drove almost all the way back. But the whole way down, he drove the entire distance. And, it's a 7-hour and 14-minute drive, but with the stops and the rest stops and the food, it's about, 9 hours plus.
Right.
So I was impressed that he was able to keep it together for as long as he did and stay focused on the road. But the one thing I noticed, and this comes back to the autism, is I'm trying to get him to work on, because I'm gripping when I'm sitting in the passenger seat. I made the point earlier on the show. It's like if you want to feel like you need to live just a little bit, you want to feel free, get in the passenger seat of a car with your autistic son driving.
Yeah,
it's a new experience. Because what I realize is, and this is just like probably with your son in real life, he's very focused on what's ahead of him. But I'm trying to get him to pay more attention to the cars behind him, what could possibly be taking place up front to anticipate. And that's a struggle for him. And so I was working with him on that, and that's something that's going to continue to take time. He follows rules, but the anticipatory nature of driving as you're cruising
Right.
down the freeway, it's lost on him at this point.
Yeah, I feel I've used the analogy before. It's like they're driving a manual transmission where we drive an automatic transmission. So
Yeah.
they have to think about every single move
Yes.
where we just get to push the gas and go. And so, so he's focused on the three things that are in front of him because you can't get all of it at one time because then, you might encounter a spin out.
Yeah, and what I've noticed that he's doing now, and I don't know if your son does anything like this, but Isaac, like we stop at a restaurant, he wanted to go to Black Bear Diner
Okay.
in Wairika, California. It's one of his favorite spots because he stopped there before in the past. So we go in, and I know that when we go to a restaurant, I just have to embrace and accept the fact that he's going to move around and talk to everybody in the restaurant because he's trying to make friends, right?
Okay.
And it embarrasses me, but for Isaac, it's like totally normal. But he actually will approach people, and he lets them know up front, like, "Hi, my name's Isaac. I just want to say hello. I have autism and ADHD." So he lets them know up front what he's dealing with.
Okay.
And I never told him to do that. I don't know where he got that from, but he uses that as a way to break the ice. And then after he says that, then he launches into whatever questions or conversation he has for that individual.
And is it met? How is that met? Is it positive, or do people tell him, or just kind of look at him like, "Hey, man, go on out of here. I'm trying to eat a burger."
Well, what was neat about the Black Bear Diner experience is that everyone was very receptive. And I don't know if that's because it was a smaller town or maybe people that were in a more leisure type setting because maybe they were on road trips as well. But they all embraced him and thought he was very kind.
Yeah.
But I've seen him in different settings where you can tell, at least I can read the body language. They just don't want any type of disturbance. Not that they're not down with Isaac, but it's like,
Right.
"Hey, I'm just trying to get my coffee and get the heck out of here."
Yeah.
And you're impeding progress.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I'm very relatable to you in that way that like you're automatically when you get into those settings, you're trying to figure out how to like cover that gap and like steer it a little bit and soften the blow and maybe answer a question for him or whatever, and I think that's great that he's taken that much.
But how do we do that though? Because what I did this time was I held back. I figured, you know what? I want to fill the gap for him, but maybe I shouldn't. So I just stayed back and just allowed him to operate. I don't know if it's good for me to fill the gaps for him all the time.
I think you're 100% correct. I think it's what we do as parents by default. You're just trying to look at. Ever since they were young, we've tried to soften it and curve it and make sure that everything was accessible and easier for them, right?
Yes.
And so now, that's just part of learning. But those social skills are so great. To be
Yeah.
able to go up and talk to somebody is outstanding.
What I respect about that is that I would imagine he doesn't act like there's any fear there, but I would imagine for him there's fear because he has to acknowledge that I'm sure he knows, or at least he said it before quietly, that he understands that there's something different, right, between him and maybe somebody else. I think he kind of sees that connection now. But I was wondering, like, maybe if he does face adversity, like let's say he gets rejected by somebody else and I stay back, maybe that's a good thing for him. Where if someone rejects him, maybe he learns that, just because I approach someone and I try to be kind, it doesn't mean I'm always going to get met
Right.
with the same type of kindness.
I think both things are true there. And what you have going for you is that you're there to help bring that down. If that, you know what I mean? If that hits him kind of hard or hurts his feelings or what have you, you're right there to help calm that situation down, maybe offer some words of wisdom and get back to that burger.
Does your son engage with strangers at all?
Not too much. Mostly if they have like younger kids. Like he loves babies and like small
does?
kids. He really enjoys it. So he wants to go and check it out and say hi. But by and large, he pretty much out in public these days, like quick snapshot for going out to eat, earbuds in the whole time, got his phone, and he's pretty much doing his thing.
Yeah. But babies, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's always been that way. He's loved little kids, loved babies, and just wants to go and pat him on the head and go on about his business.
That's cool. That shows that he's showing some sort of care for the young ones.
Yeah, he's got it could be so much worse, and I really try and hammer that home to myself. And he's a good kid. I got no gripes.
Ah, that's good. Interesting. How is he with animals?
Loves cats, not so wild about dogs, only because they're loud. They bark a lot, and he doesn't like that, but he sure loves cats. He was a Go Diego Go guy, if you ever watch that. If you've got kids out there that are in their teens, you probably experienced some Dora the Explorer, Go Diego Go action in your day, and that's been a staple for him for his whole life. Baby Jaguar is one of the characters on there, so cats are have been his thing.
Does he take any interest in, like, current world issues? Politics, anything of that nature?
No interest. The only thing that I would say even remotely close to fall into that category is conservation of the rainforest, because he's a big animal lover, and he doesn't like the notion that animals are losing their house to, whatever we need to develop. And so he's very big on saving the rainforest.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's
I think
a great
it's great.
endeavor.
And so that's it. Like he's a big list maker. So it's like, hey, here's things I want to do this summer. And it's everything from going to Barnes & Noble to going to Costa Rica. Like there's everything he wants to do this summer, or go to Antarctica, or like he's got these wild trips. And then there's just like the basic, let's go hit up the mall. But it's all on the same, hey, let's go do that this summer.
Yeah, you got to make Costa Rica happen for him, dang it.
Yeah, I would like to at some point. It would be fun to take him on an exotic trip like that. We took him over to Hawaii and experienced some of that rainforest action.
What do you think of that?
He loved it. He had a great time in Hawaii.
Yeah, the climate, the settings.
Yeah.
Some of the different scenery. It's a great set. It's
Loves
a great setup.
to swim, so not afraid of the ocean at all. Like he
he swims
right in it. Yeah.
See, Isaac, I was talking to him about that. I said, because it's been a while since I've been in the pool with him. And I'm like, do you know how to swim? And he's like, well, a little bit. He'll get in the pool, but he likes to stay close to the edge of the pool so he can hold on. I think he can swim a little bit, but he doesn't. It's the same thing with the stimulation. Like if there's a lot of kids in the pool splashing and stuff like that, he doesn't like that, but he does like being in the water.
Yeah. The water has always been that thing where it just chills him out. Like he really enjoys it. He's really happy.
So he'll get in the
swimming.
ocean and stuff too.
Yeah. Fearless. Freezing. You know what I mean? Like he don't care a bit.
That's great.
Yeah. So he's all about the swimming. That is probably one of his most favorite pastimes.
The one thing I was going to tell you about the diner experience is that our server, and you've probably had these type of instances before. So Isaac, of course, starts opening up and talking to our server, and she was a young gal, very sweet. But it turns out that her brother was autistic as well. So to see her, like within 2 minutes, I was like, she knew exactly what she was doing, and Isaac didn't disturb her, slow her down. Like she just knew how to operate within his world. And so I'm watching that, and she made the experience so good because she was so patient with him.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like when you see somebody that's got a little bit of experience with it, like they just get right into that mode.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Yeah. So you know how the food thing works. So Isaac's gotten to the point now where it's always a plain hamburger, right?
Yeah.
Meat and bun only. But now he likes just a little bit of onions on the burger. Still plain, but a little bit of onions on there. So the server brought out the burger, and it had the onions right there on the side, sliced up, ready to go. But because they weren't on the burger, Isaac was like,
no deal.
He goes, let me look at this real quick. And so he lifts up the bun. He goes, actually, this is not correct. There's supposed to be onions on the burger. And of course, in my mind, I'm like, dude, just put the onions on the burger. But
Right.
I didn't say that, but I'm thinking it. But the server, she was like, oh, no problem, no problem. So she took it back and got the onions on the burger for him. And then he was happy.
Look, it's got to be just so. And I know it's annoying for us as their parents is out there, but it's like, you will not taste the sesame seeds on the bun. I promise you. It'll be fine. And he just will look at you and go, I'm not interested.
Not interested. So good.
That's it. There's no discussion. I'm not interested until that's correct.
And I asked him, I said, well, son, why didn't you just take the onions that were right next to your burger and just put them on there? And he goes, well, that's not how I ordered it. And they should bring it out the way I ordered. And I was like, technically, he's not incorrect there.
Very, very true. And listen, they will get stuck on the just the specifics and the reality of what it is in that moment, right? So that's it. It's what I asked for. What you brought me is not what I asked for, and that's the end of the conversation. We need it corrected.
That's great, man. I love it. So he puts this list together every year.
Dude, yeah, he's just a list writer. He loves to put lists together and loves to write stories out that a lot of it is just him inserting himself into maybe like a cartoon episode, right? So it'll be the whole story of this episode of a show, but he's inserted himself into the story to like help with whatever or rescue said animal or what have you. So those moments, I'm like, all right, look, man, get in there and explore that creativity. And I love that he's always writing with a pencil and not typing things out. So like the
how's his handwriting?
motor skills, he's a lefty, so it's pretty like it looks like a left-handed. Is Isaac left-handed?
He is right-handed,
He's right-handed?
but he does a lot of things with his left hand.
I
He might
just-
be ambidextrous.
I just read an article not too long ago that a high majority of kids on the spectrum are left-handed.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder what the connection is there.
no idea, but I was like, my kid's left-handed. How do you like that?
Huh. Yeah, it's funny to watch him. Yeah, Isaac's handwriting is, when he focuses, is very legible. He likes to write and make notes, too. He has Post-it notes where he makes notes to himself all the time so he doesn't forget. So he'll put them in his suitcase or put them here and there because he's worried about forgetting things.
Wow. Well, that's good for him for being aware of that and setting it up for his own success and not going like, oh, man, I forgot whatever again. That's real good.
It took 2 years to get him to eat sesame seeds, though, in the bun. That was a process.
We still have not got there. So it's just.
And you may not.
Yeah, it is just a non-negotiable thing, and it's a deal breaker.
Yeah, I've been trying to take him I want to take him to Hawaii, but he was a big fan of Kobe Bryant. And after Kobe crashed in the helicopter and he and his daughter passed away, he's like, I'm not doing it. Not interested. I will drive. He goes, I'll take a boat to Hawaii, but I'm not getting an airplane.
Wow.
He just won't do it.
Yeah, that's Parker had an aversion to almost anything that wasn't our car for a long time. Like he wouldn't get on a city bus, didn't want to ride on a train, wouldn't go on the Max, and it was always like, it's not safe. It's not safe. And it's like, well, it's pretty safe. And yeah, it's crazy, dude. On our trip to Hawaii, he passed out on the plane, like not like fell asleep, but like was like, hey, I don't feel that good. And I'm like, hey, let's get up and get the blood moving. Let's walk around for a little bit. We got almost to the end galley.
Yeah.
And he just lights out, just fell backwards. I caught him. And they're like, hey, just lay him down in the area back here and did the full, is there a doctor in the house call situation? And I'm like, holy cow, this is crazy as we're flying over the ocean. And
was it just overstimulation?
I think it was a blood sugar thing. Like we packed snacks and stuff for him, but I think he just got a little hot on the plane because he was sitting by the window.
Yeah.
And yeah, the excitement of going and all that stuff. But I think it was just maybe his blood sugar got a little bit low, but his face turned pale and man, it was crazy. But the even crazier part was we happened to be on a flight going to Maui with a bunch of doctors and nurses that were going to a medical convention.
Yeah.
And when they said, is there a doctor in the house? It was just hands and stethoscopes and everything that came through this curtain as
they're checking him out.
It was nuts. It was as though it
free
wasn't
medical
real.
care.
And I'm just sitting back there going, this is the craziest thing ever. And so then he comes around, everything's fine. They give him some juice. He's the hit of the plane. Everybody's coming by, giving him a high five as they're passing back through there. And we had them on the flight back as well. So I was like, hey, good to see you guys again. Nice to know if anything happens, you're here with your stethoscopes and we'll get him taken care of.
What'd your son say about that experience?
He thought it was weird. He just goes, oh, that was weird. They gave me some juice. I'm like, that's cool. And then he just like hung out and just sat back there for a little while. Like, hey, I'm going to take as much of this experience with me as I can. But yeah, everybody was being super cool to him. It was very nice.
That's great. Beefwater, my man Casey in studio. Well, congratulations on the continued success as you put together.
Thanks, man.
The makings of what looks to be a grand walk for autism next year.
Yeah, what's it going to be next year? Like, the ante is definitely upped. So what's it going to be? Who knows? But we're trying to get ourselves in a little better conditioning for next year.
Well, I'll keep you posted on how things shake out this weekend you can picture me cruising up to Seattle with a carload of teenage girls going to the big concert.
I'm not going to lie. You're in for it, man. You are in for it.
I'm done. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, coming up at 4:20. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, dude.
All right, big thanks to my man Casey Beefwater for stopping in studio. I love talking with him about his son Parker and comparing stories between he and Isaac. And there's no joke. He saved me some big time bacon for this concert this weekend. It's one of those things where, my daughter came up to me and said, Dad, can you take me and such to the show up in Seattle on Saturday? I had no idea who the show was. I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I knew it was at Lumen Field. So I'm like, the tickets can't be that much. And then I looked up ticket prices like, oh, yeah, yay. So that's when I reached out. One of the advantages of working for iHeart is that our company's involved in promoting so many different concerts. And I put in the request, and he came through, so we're dialed in. And not only that, but I think the location of the seats he sent over are better than the ones I would have bought anyways. So I appreciate that. And now I can make up the difference in parking. That's going to be the problem. That whole area, I'm not joking, man. When we would go up to Seahawks games in my younger days, back in the early 90s, I think the first game that my dad and I went to up at the Kingdome together was 1990. It was close to the end of the year, so I think we were entering December. And we parked, I think the name of the road is Lander. It's out there way back south, closer to the bread factory. But this is before they started to build that entire area up in the industrial park. Back in the old day when it was the Kingdome, everything south of the Kingdome was just industrial park. And it was kind of nasty. And, of course, parking back then wasn't as expensive as it is now. But we'd park way out there. And my dad's like, oh, it's not worth it. Let's just walk. The exercise is good for you anyways. And that's what we did. And I got used to it, and it was fine. And besides, the walk up to the stadium helped to calm some of the anxiety and nerves I had before a big football game. And so 1990 was the first. The very first game I went to at the Kingdome for football was 89. That's when I went up with my buddy Jeff. I don't know how our parents let us do this. We were 14, freshmen in high school, and we got to ride the train up, just he and I. And they drop you off right there at the station, King Station, right next to the Kingdome. You walk over to the game, and then when the game's over, you walk back over to the train station, and boom, back to Vancouver. So 89, 90, and then we went to games in 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. 6, 7, 8, 9, 2000. That was in a rainstorm. And then I went in 01. And then in 02, the Seahawks actually became part of the NFC with the whole realignment. But the Broncos played up there. So I went and saw a game at the new stadium in 02. So what is that? 89 to 2002. That's how many straight years we went up to games there. And then, of course, the Kingdome. Not a pretty sight, but very loud, very loud. But the parking, yeah, my dad's like, no, we're not doing that. We don't pay for parking in this household. That's not how we operate. It's funny, you pick up on certain things from your parents. You don't even realize it at the time, but then you get older, you're like, yeah, my dad was right. I'm not going to pay $50 for parking. That's total nonsense. Why would I do that? I'll spend $5 on a coffee every day, but I'm not going to pay for parking. I'm going to draw my line somewhere. Isn't it kind of funny how we always find money for the things we want? I would never pay $40 for parking. Sign me up for the $5 coffee every day, though. I'm in. That's good. So that's what's going on. But honestly, like these concerts, Playboy Cardi, The Weeknd, I have no idea what's going on there. It's not my genre. And I've been to concerts before. Like I had a girlfriend when I was younger. She was into country music. And look, I'm not opposed to country per se. I grew up in Oklahoma, for crying out loud. I was exposed to it at a young age, but it's not really my thing. But she was pulling me around to these different country concerts. Not my thing. I did see Brooks and Dunn. They were very good. Brooks and Dunn was very good. Lori Morgan, I think is her name. Terrible. That was out at Portland Meadows. They used to do concerts out there at Portland Meadows. The best show I saw out of Portland Meadows, not the best venue for a show, Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was cool. I went with my boy Steve. But Lori Morgan, terrible. Brooks and Dunn was pretty good. I've been to a few country concerts, but typically being pulled to a show with a genre that you know nothing about and don't care about, it's misery. We've all been there before where you're going to a show or an event, you're like, I have no interest in what's going on whatsoever. I don't care about the music. It's not my genre. I don't know any of the songs. I don't know the artists. It's just not my thing. It's totally different than going to a show that you know. But that's what you do as a dad, because I saw the excitement on her face. Her friends are happy. They're geeked out of their minds. So that's the price you pay as a pop. It's not about me. Just like the road trip to Corning. That was not about me. That was all about Isaac. How'd our parents do it, by the way? How'd they survive? You don't recognize it when you're young, and then as you get older, you realize like all the different times that your parents were sacrificing what they wanted to do to take care of their children. Think about all the things that our parents had to say no to because they were busy taking care of us and our ridiculous needs, or sacrificing what they wanted so that their kids could have better. You don't see any of that or know any of that when you're young. You don't know what your parents are sacrificing. It's not even, you don't even consider it. But then you get older and you start to look back, you're like, wait a second. They totally compromised or gave up on this or set this aside and sacrificed so that we could be happy. Amazing to me. It's amazing. You don't see any of that when you're younger. All right, telephone number is 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. I do want to touch on young Hansen, who's making his adjustment to new town, new team as he gets ready for Summer League action, going through his beginning stages of Summer League practice. I can't wait to see him play. And I know that going in, the Summer League is not built for big men, but I'm excited to see Hansen on the floor because the Blazers truly believe in him, and they believe his passing ability is elite. I just want to see how he moves and how he operates out there. I'm excited to see Hansen play. That will be my main reason for tuning into Summer League action. Also, we got to get to LeBron. There could be something getting ready to go down between the Lakers and Mavericks potentially. If you see some of the things going on underneath the surface, LeBron could be Dallas or destined for Dallas possibly. I want to talk some football as well coming out of Big 12 Media Days. Hard to believe it, but camp's right around the corner. All right, Brian No, Fox Sports Radio, going to stop by at 4:20, and then we'll talk with Aaron Fentress at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 4 o'clock. What's going on, my friends? Chad here. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon. Trailblazers preparing for Summer League action. They're going to play their first game coming up Friday night down in Vegas. Take on the Golden State Warriors. Tip-off at 8 on ESPN2. NBA announced groups for the 2025 in-season tournament. The Blazers will be a part of West Group C, along with Houston, Denver, Golden State, and San Antonio. The Thunder and Chet Holmgren have reached an agreement on a 5-year, $250 million rookie extension. From baseball, the Yankees have designated DJ LeMahieu for assignment. He's owed $22 million through next season. Checking the Major League scoreboard, the Dodgers have dropped 6 straight. They fall to the Brewers in Milwaukee in extras by a final score of 3-2. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to join me at 4:20, and Aaron Fentress at 5:20 here on the Rip City Drive. All right, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to join us coming up at 4:20. Want to check in with him and see how he's feeling. Telephone number 503-248-0620. I'll get to some college football in just a moment. Let's go out to Beaverton. My man Mark is out there. He wants to chime in. Hey, Mark, I appreciate the phone call. You are up on the Rip City Drive. What's on your mind? Mark, Beaverton, what's up, buddy? Fire away.
Hey, Chad, sorry about that. I used to listen to your show for years driving around, and I haven't driven around for years, so I haven't had a chance to listen to your show. And I was out today, and I just reminded how great it was. So I'll have to figure out a way to tune in my office. On another note, your autism discussion was great, and thanks for sharing that kind of stuff, because my brother-in-law moved in with me, and he's got some autism, and I've never encountered this before, so it's been a real eye-opener and learning curve for me about how to adjust things. And so your segment was great, and so I just wanted to say thanks for sharing.
Well, Mark, I appreciate that. How long has he been with you?
He came over for a week and ended up staying, and that was in November.
That's interesting. So what are some of the quirks that he brings with him? Is it does he have a difficult time socially communicating with people? Is it easily getting overstimulated? Is it loud noises? What are some of the things you noticed?
Staying on maybe some simple tasks, easily distracted and losing focus on things, and just being unable to. Some of the same things will be reminded, and it just doesn't stick.
Yeah.
And and he's always had someone in a relationship with him who's always taking care of a lot of life's things for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's never done some simple things like balance a checkbook, or even have a checking account, or heat up a bowl of chili in the microwave without putting a cover on it. Just simple things that you would think at 60-something you would know. And so it's just been, he's never dealt with certain things. So it's just a real learning curve.
It's funny you mentioned the attention span. Like right now, Isaac is 22, and he's got a job coach that's working with him to try and help him get a job. And he's had a few interviews, hasn't been able to land anything yet. But, I still wonder to this day, to be honest with you, Mark, like I'm not sure how Isaac will do with a job, even if it's for a shorter period of time instead of an 8-hour workday, even for, a 2, 3, or 4-hour workday. I don't know if Isaac would be able to stay focused long enough on a particular task to be able to get the job done the way he's supposed to. I don't know if he's capable.
Sure. And I'm realizing that perhaps in my situation with my brother-in-law too, he's got some physical things he's got to get corrected. But once he gets that corrected, I'm not really even sure whether he would be able to hold a job of really any kind. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, I tell you what, I think it's wonderful that you're stepping up to provide some care and some love. And even though he may not be able to ever grasp certain items and will need help in certain areas, I think it's wonderful what you're doing.
Well, thanks, Chad. Keep up the great show. I'll be figuring a way to listen online, and thanks for the discussion.
You got it. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Our free iHeartRadio app is great because you can listen wherever you're at, in your office, at home. And I know listening habits for everybody changed, throughout the pandemic because a lot of people were staying at home. I still come into work every day, but a lot of people don't. Maybe they go into the office a couple of days a week. Some people work from home all the time now. Based on the way this building looks now, I would say the majority of people at our office work from home now. So listening habits change. Less people are bumping around in the cars. And frankly, I got to be honest with you, probably not a bad thing. I deal with traffic every day. It's probably better that less people are dealing with traffic every day because it's maddening. I mean, if you want to put yourself in a bad mood, jump in traffic. Because what irritates me is on the 4th of July, I drove from North Vancouver because I was heading down. I had an event down at Spirit Mountain Casino, the Toys of Summer. I had a drawing. So I was heading down. And, of course, there was no one on the road because everyone was off celebrating the 4th of July. This is what drives me insane. I drove from North Vancouver and made it out to the Wilsonville area, 32 minutes. 32 minutes across the entire town. What drives me crazy is knowing that this area, as big as it is, it's not separated by that much. But then you add in the cars, the traffic, and then all of a sudden you're talking about a drive that should take 32 minutes, takes an hour. And no one likes that. I don't like that. And I know you don't like that either. But, Mark, I appreciate you reaching out to share that. What I've learned is, I'm going to be honest with you, having a child that has special needs, autism with Isaac, it's not easy. It's not easy for anyone. The one thing I've learned through this is to have more compassion for the families, the parents who have special needs kids, or if you're out at a restaurant or the grocery store or the department store and you see the difficulties when you've got someone with special needs melting down, I have more compassion for those people now. It sucks because Isaac's 22 years old and I still feel like I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Just being honest with you. I mean, there are certain situations where once he gets focused on something or there's conflict, it's brutal. It's very difficult. And with Isaac, there's certain things he does really well, and there's certain things that he can't stay focused on. I don't know about the work. I don't know. Maybe a short burst. Isaac staying focused for 8 hours in a day on a job, I don't know if that's possible. But then again, if you would have told me when he was 5 years old he'd be driving someday, I would have said that wasn't possible. So I don't like to place limitations on him, but I do understand what you mean by the focus. And the checkbook thing, Isaac has no idea or sense of the value of money. He just wants money in his checking account so he can go out and do whatever he wants to do. But he has no sense of the value of money. He obviously has no awareness of the social norms that we pay attention to. He violates them constantly at all times. Close talker, talking too loud, approaching people, trying to hug people. He's violating things all the time. And it's difficult, challenging. But I do like talking about it because the biggest thing I want other people out there who have kids with special needs is just to let them know that you're not alone. There are other families, parents who are dealing with the same thing. And by sharing experiences, maybe you can help someone maybe who just found out that their child was diagnosed with autism, because that's pretty freaky. And there's still so much unknown about it, right? So I appreciate the call, Mark. 503-248-0620. I want to talk some college football. As you know, big fan of Kenny Dillingham, former offensive coordinator at Oregon, worked with Bo Nix, and then he got the job to go back to his alma mater, where he's from, in the Valley, and be the head coach at Arizona State. And he's been terrific. In a very short period of time, Arizona State picked to finish last in the conference last year. They won the conference and went to the college football playoff and took Texas to overtime. Probably should have won the game, but they couldn't come up with a fourth down stop. Well, the one thing Kenny Dillingham is doing well and he's doing a lot of things really well. He's younger, and unlike so many of the older coaches in college football who are bristling against NIL and the transfer portal, like Kenny Dillingham has embraced it. And the way he's working it is fascinating. And I love it. Take a listen to Kenny Dillingham at Big 12 Media Days talking about how he looks at NIL and what he's trying to accomplish.
It's all about treating the guys in your team great. And if you treat the guys in your team great, when you get a good player, he's going to stay there. If you constantly are looking for the next best thing to replace the guys in your team, then your own guys in your team should leave. Why wouldn't they? If you're not loyal to them, they shouldn't be loyal to you. I think that's the one thing that I take a lot of pride in is, our best players are going to make the most money on our team. And if you have a problem with that, become a best player. And if you're not the best player and you want to make more money, then yeah, I'm going to help you leave. So not just to make more money, so you can play. But at the end of the day, our best players deserve to make the most money. Our best players, our best young guys deserve to make the next most so they can grow into playing. We're all about production. We're all about, doing it in our program. And I think that's why a lot of our players stayed here is they know that we're going to take care of them when they deserve it. And they know we're going to treat them fairly. And they know I'm never going to lie to them in the recruiting process. And are we going to lose a lot of recruits because I'm not going to tell a kid he's going to make $500,000 and put in the contract that I can change your salary at my discretion, which is happening. In the contract, I can change your salary at my discretion. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that.
There's Kenny Dillingham. Right attitude, right approach. He's honest with the players. My best players are going to make the most money. And if you don't like that, become a best player. So I like his approach. He's not fighting against the system. He's not whining about the system. He's just embracing it. Now, the one thing that's going to be fun to watch with Arizona State, and here's why I think they're going to win the conference again. The one thing that college football, for the most part across the country, lacks is continuity. The schools, the programs with the least amount of turnover going from last year into this year are going to be well positioned to have success because right now turnover is the name of the game in college football. On the rosters, in the coaching staffs, you name it. Arizona State, because of the work of Kenny Dillingham and his staff, no turnover. So they're going to come back. They'll have same coach, same coordinators. So the players are going to know the system and know what's expected of them. Jordan Tyson, who's one of the best receivers in the country, said this is the first time in his football career where he's going to come back and have the same coach, same coordinator, and same quarterback. Well, the Arizona State Sun Devils, if you're looking for maybe a futures bet, 18 of their 22 starters from last year on the playoff team return this season. 10 of their 11 starters on defense. So 18 of 22 starters are back. They have multiple first-team all Big 12 members on their squad. They also have one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Sam Levitt, who played right down the street at West Lynn. They've got one of the best receivers in the country in Jordan Tyson. And they're loaded up at the skill positions, which is critical. One of the weaknesses or glaring weaknesses last year was their kicking game, which was an abortion. They went out and got one of the best kickers in the country in the portal, and they've got the continuity. But what I'm most excited about is Sam Levitt. He was big time at West Lynn. He's really athletic. He can move. And I was talking to a scout yesterday who really dives into the prospects. He said that he wants to see Levitt continue to develop as a passer, but talked about his toughness and how tough he is and said that shows up on the tape. And teammates will rally around that. So continuity, 18 of 22 starters returning, great quarterback play, great quarterback wide receiver combination. The big question mark is, how do you replace Cam Scatteraboo, who was a Heisman finalist last year? He had like 21 touchdowns and basically 2,000 yards in total offense. He was a beast. He's a special one. They're loaded up with backs. They got Kanye Udo from Army, and they've got a couple of other legitimate backs, but it's always hard to replace that type of production. But when you have a quarterback like Levitt, it makes things a lot easier. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to talk some ball next. We'll see how he's feeling, how are things going, and we'll talk some ball. And then Aaron Fentress is going to join me at 5:20. You got Chad doing the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Well, it's always a pleasure when we have a chance to welcome in my brother from Fox Sports Radio, Bino. Brian Noah's back. What's up, brother?
What is going on, Chad? Doing? I see you've been traveling around a little bit, getting out there, out and about over the weekends. You have grand travels scheduled coming up here shortly. What do you have going on?
Well, the next thing coming up is I'm going to head down to Vegas because I want to see you and I want to see my buddy Steve. But, yeah, I went on a little road trip with Isaac for a few days. So he loves going on road trips, man. So we're out there enjoying the sunshine and went down to the northern part of California. It was nice, man. How you feeling?
Pretty good. Yeah, feel fine. And I saw a random video you made with Isaac.
I did, yeah.
Not fond of planes, that Isaac over there, right?
No, he's a big fan and loved Kobe Bryant. And after that horrific helicopter crash, he's like, I'm done. I'm not flying. And I said, well, what about Hawaii? He's like, I'll take a boat and go with you, but I'm not going to get in an airplane. And he's dead serious. He's not joking.
Wow. Hey, man, I get it. I totally understand that. Think about John Madden when he was doing his commentating, would just go on the Madden Cruiser. He didn't want to fly at all.
Well, you probably heard that story of Madden when he talked about that final flight where he was, once the cockpit door closed and they closed the door to the plane, he started getting a real cold sweat and he was white-knuckling it and he was having panic attacks the entire flight. And he knew midair, he's like, I'm never doing this again.
Wow. And he didn't. I don't think he did.
He never did. He got the Madden Cruiser. That's when you know you have major pull. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to broadcast games unless you get me the Madden Cruiser so I can bump around on the roadways. And he did it his entire career. That's amazing to me.
It is. By the way, do you have any fears, like skydiving, anything like that? Fear of flight, fear of anything?
I do. I have a fear of flying. I had a fear of skydiving. I did do it once, North Shore in Hawaii. Here's the way I approach my fears, Brian. I like to take them head on because I don't want something to have mastery over me. And so I continue to do it so I can face my fears. That's just how I operate. And I find by doing that it allows me to challenge myself. Like, I don't like to fly at all. It gives me great anxiety, but I continue to do it because I know that I got to face my fears. But more importantly, you can save so much time. And that's what I was trying to explain to my son. It's like, you always want to go to these different places, but I said, if we don't spend 7 hours driving, think about how much more time we'll have on site to do whatever we want,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's cool, though. You tackle the fears head on. It made me think of my young nephew. It was funny. We were at an amusement park called Cedar Point. It's in
you
Ohio.
went to Cedar Point?
Oh, yeah. It's a great amusement park.
That's known as one of the all-time greats because of the ridiculous roller coaster rides that they had there. In fact, I think there was one floating around online about a new coaster they got that's badass.
Yeah, they probably have a couple now, but there was one, I don't think it's there anymore, but it was called the Top Fuel Dragster. And so it was a theme of like a Top Fuel, like drag race, right? And so you're in this, you're in the roller coaster, like in the seats, and it has the lights, like you're drag racing. So all the lights go down, it's like, red, yellow, however they do it. And then it's green and boom, you're just off and going. I forget how fast you went immediately, 70 or 80 miles per hour. I'm not sure. And all the ride was, Chad, you go straight up, like over 400 feet and like straight down. That's pretty much the roller coaster. And my young nephew, Ty, at the time, he's like a thrill seeker. But he's sitting there like, do we have to be in the front car for this thing? And I'm like, yeah, you got to take that fear and meet it head on. And he's looking at me like, I don't know about this, but I knew he'd be fine. The next thing I know, we're at the top going down. His little arms are in the air, and he's like, wah! He had a great time. So, yeah, there's real power in meeting that fear head on. Sure.
I know this is going to sound weird based on what you and I do for a living, but I also have a fear of public speaking, like a lot of people do, and not being on the radio, but speaking in front of a body of people where their eyeballs are on you. So that's why when I have a chance to do speaking engagements or I get invited to MC an event or a place where I'll be up on stage in front of a certain number of people, I like to continue to put myself in those situations because the more I do it, the more comfortable I get with it so I don't have that type of anxiety about it. Do you get nervous when you're speaking in front of live bodies compared to being on the radio?
It's a different feeling for sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I fear it, but it feels totally different. It's so weird. I don't know how to explain it where it's just in your mind. you're probably talking to more people on a daily basis on the radio than whatever speaking engagement you have, but it doesn't feel like that. Like you just see you see Shaq Diesel over there and like 4 walls. It feels like, you're talking to yourself. But man, when you have a speaking engagement and there are actually people out there, you're like, whoa, the script has flipped, it's just totally different, but it's all in your mind, man. And once you start going, then you're like, okay, I know how to talk. So you just kind of settle into it, I think.
Well, I think you can relate to this. The other time I had great fear was when I was down in the Bay Area. I had moved down there, and I was getting acclimated to my surroundings. I was in a new place for the very first time. I didn't know anybody. So I called my dad, and I was like, hey, what should I do? How do I get involved to help out? And he goes, trust me, if you go to any local church near you and you walk in and say, I would like to volunteer, he goes, they'll always be willing to take extra hands that want to help. And so I found a place in Oakland close to the lake there, Lake Merritt. And I went in and talked to some people about volunteering. And what this church had right there in the hardcore part of Oakland was this, it was like a street center where on the weekends, on Sunday before church, they would welcome in a bunch of people who were homeless into this like old school gymnasium. And I ended up taking it over after a couple of months. And so I would get there early and I would do the shopping during the week, and I would go in and make a bunch of food. And I was asking my mom different recipes and how I made them on a bigger scale for all these people. But the one thing that the guy told me is before you feed them, you have to share some type of spiritual message. And I was like, so I was really nervous about that because I'm like, I'm really a wretched human being. And so I didn't want to speak for the Lord or speak foolishly. But I remember a pastor saying once, he goes, if people just got up in front of people and just read the Bible, they would probably be better off. And so what I did is I just picked a couple of scriptures that I liked, and I just read the Bible word for word to the people before we served the food, and I felt much better. But I was really nervous because I'm like, I'm not if I don't want to misstep or say anything bad, because I don't want to be held accountable for that. So that made me very nervous. I was one of those times where you can feel like your armpits getting really moist, and you're like, and you can feel like when I get nervous, like I can feel my body temperature rise and I start to sweat. Like that's how I felt right before I did that. But it went okay, and it was fine. But I was really nervous because I didn't want to misstep there.
Yeah, it's funny too because it's almost before that you start doing your power rankings of Bible verses. You know, like, do I go with this one? Do I go with that? What am I going to go with here exactly? And I thought it's funny because I get these quotes each day.
Yes.
It's like a newsletter, and at the bottom of it, it has a quote each day. And I thought, based on what you said, it made me think of what I read this morning. It's from Tom Hanks. I think today is his birthday. But it was a quote from Tom Hanks, and it said, "We are still in the position of waking up and having a choice. Do I make the world better today somehow, or do I not bother?" And I was like, man, that's a great quote, and we can relate to that. I was filling in for 2 pros, and I got a couple of tweets, and I'm like, man, these people didn't make the world better today. You know, they're just complaining. It's really easy to do that. But if you keep that in your mind, like, am I making anything better, or am I just being a hater? You know, like if you keep that right in your mind, I think that helps you with a lot of choices.
Yeah, that's great that you were doing that. You know, one individual I've been listening to, LeVar Arrington, who's on that show, I've learned to really appreciate him. You know why, Brian? Because he comes across very real on air. And then I went into one of the sales guys' offices last week, and he was listening to a sales meeting, but it was a Zoom call, and LeVar was speaking to this crowd of people within iHeart. And I listened to some of it, and I was like, man, he came across like just a real dude, and I respect that.
No, that's cool. Yeah, no, he is. He's definitely when I was writing for Jason Barrett's website, I interviewed LeVar, and I bumped into him in the studio one time. Like, our shows are very close to each other on the weekend. He was completely cool, very nice. And, so I've got nothing but good things to say about LeVar. And it's funny, like, before we talk some ball here, I like talking this life stuff. Like, you shared the story with your dad and what suggestion he had to, just go to a church and say, I'd like to help out. It was similar with my dad, because I've lived so many different places. And I'm like, Dad, you got any advice to me? I don't know anybody in Fresno. Like, I was going out there. And he was like, it was weird because he kind of like, he looked all, when someone like looks all around them? Where
Yes.
It's like, what are you doing? He looked all around him and he was like, son, all right, here's what you do. You want to get to know people in a new community? Strip clubs. Go to all the – no, I'm kidding. You didn't say No, I didn't say that. I didn't ask him any advice, but I like what your dad told you. That's true. I'll tell you what, on a serious note, though, Chad, I don't know what it is about helping someone else where you talk about this feeling that you can't duplicate other ways, man. It's amazing. And it could be the littlest thing, but it's really, really cool what it does for them and in turn what it does for you, for sure.
I agree. Now, one other situation where I was really nervous, I went down for the Oregon-Stanford game. I think this was 2013. Mariota was playing, and the Ducks lost the game. It was a tragic loss, which derailed their title hopes that year. But at halftime of that game down there at Stanford Stadium, they were retiring the number of John Elway.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And so I knew he was going to be on the field. And the guy I was working with, Bernie, was like, you have to go down there and interview him. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. And then when I got down there and I saw him walking towards the corner of the end zone where it was my turn to step up, I was starting to get really nervous. And Bernie kind of shoved me out there because my thought was, it's like, this is the guy that I have grown up loving my entire life. What if I go to interview him and he snubs me?
Yeah.
Or he doesn't give me the time of day? Like, I didn't want to put myself in a position where he could reject me and then it would ruin everything that I've grown up loving. Like, I was really nervous, but he was cool. And I think it's maybe because he had possibly been sipping a couple of Coors Lights. But I was nervous because I'm like, dude, I adore him. And if he snubs me, I'm going to be very bitter about that.
Wow. I'm glad he didn't, dude, because I know how much you love Elway, the player. And
yes.
so I'm glad he was cool. I'll tell you one real quick thing because it was similar. Like Isaac talked about his fear of flying because of the Kobe tragedy. But it was very similar, Chad. Hopefully I haven't told you this story, but I was working for Fox, and this was early on, and when I was in Fresno. This is before I was at Fox Sports Radio, but I was at a Fox affiliate in Fresno. And so the Lakers, they played preseason games every year in Fresno. And so the flagship station at the time, they called me up and said, hey, can you go to the game and just get a bunch of audio, and we'll use that audio for our next broadcast? And I'm like, okay, cool. So I have no idea what they really need. You know what I mean? I feel like it's my job to get all this audio that's possible. And so Kobe, he was talking to everybody around him. He was surrounded by all these media people. And then the main media guy is like, all right, that's it. That's all for Kobe. And everybody starts scattering away. And I'm like, I think this is when I go approach Kobe and ask him more questions, you know? and I went over there, and he was so cool to me, Chad. He was awesome. He could have easily been like, did you not hear the PR guy? I'm done. Like, go away. But he sat there and answered, 5-6 questions. We just talked about the Western Conference. He had a finger injury at the time. And he was totally cool, but he didn't blow me off at all. I always respected him for that.
See, that makes me happy because he's probably number 2 or number 3 on my all-time rankings. Like, I love Kobe, and so to know that he took the time to answer questions, that's pretty sweet. Because in my experience with Kobe, when the Lakers were in town, I'd always want to hear him talk, but he would wait and take plenty of time to get ready, and he was always the last one out. So you had to wait around to be patient for him to come out. But once he came out, he would answer questions. He wouldn't rush. He would take time. He was always measured in his responses, and I always thought he had it very MJ-like. He was very professional in his approach. But the fact that you had the nads, one, to approach him after the scrum had left, and the fact that he took time to answer more questions, that makes me happy.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And I always respected Dame for that. Dame has been amazing throughout his career of giving thoughtful answers. Like, how many times do you see athletes just blow off these questions and just power through it, not give any effort whatsoever? I literally, Chad, I've never seen Dame with a group of reporters just like half-ass it. I've never seen it one time.
Yeah.
Not like one response either. He always takes time and gives a thoughtful answer. And I don't know why Dame does that. I just appreciate him for doing it, but I love his approach.
All right, this is what I want to do if it's okay with you, because I know you and I are real big on clock integrity.
Oh, man, we're huge. I'm thinking about getting a clock integrity tat is how big I am. Maybe a little clock around my heart, and integrity. That's what I need.
Okay,
Chad.
this is what I want to do. I want to come back, and I want to go through each division, and I just want you to give me your first impression on each division and which team you think is going to win the division and why. And I know we're before camp, but I want to know where you're at when it comes to football right now.
Okay, I love that idea.
All right, let's do it. We'll do it. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. We'll talk some NFL football when we come back on the Rip City Drive. All right, Brian, just got a text message. Brian, no Fox Sports Radio, kind enough to hang around with me, which I appreciate. Someone from the 541 is making the world a better place. He reached out to me to let me know that you sound terrific, and I would have to agree that you are sounding really good, buddy. That's pumping me up coming off of your health scare.
Wow, that's awesome. I really appreciate that from you and the texter. That's really cool. Thank you both.
Well, what concerns me is I saw that Gary Trent Jr. re-signed with the Bucks, so please avoid any playoff bets against Milwaukee with Gary Trent Jr. on the floor. That could be dangerous for your health.
Gary Trent Jr. nearly killed me. That freaking guy, and props to him. He was on fire, Chad, in game 5. He could not miss at the end of regulation and overtime. He must have made 4 or 5 threes, and somehow the Pacers won. They were down by like 7 with 40 seconds to go or something insane and still won. That was a crazy game.
That was crazy. I was talking with our former producer, Eric Ringering, on Friday night, and most of the conversation was we were laughing about you because I said, yeah, I think it was Gary Trent Jr. that nearly killed him. And then I said, I should have known because I didn't ask, but I should have known. I said, he went right back to work on Fox Sports Radio after the stroke. And Eric said, yeah, that sounds about right. And then I told him about how you told me, like, yeah, I started the show, and then I got like 10 minutes in. I was like, man, this is really hard.
Yeah, it was. Oh, man, that first show, Chad, it felt like I was on a treadmill at the highest incline on the highest speed. I'm like, I'm just talking sports. I was like literally winded, like I ran the 100-meter dash. It was crazy.
Yeah, we were laughing about it because like, yeah, that's the Brian I know and respect so much. All right, this is what I want to do because, you know, we're getting close to football camps opening up. So I just want to gauge where you're at when it comes to some of the different football teams that are out there. So I want to go through each division, and you don't have to give me a long, drawn-out answer. Just give me your quick take on who you think right now is going to walk away with the division based on the moves that have gone down through free agency and the draft. We'll start with the AFC in the East. You've got Buffalo, Miami, New England, and the Jets, Jets. Who do you like in the East?
It's Buffalo's division. Unless Josh Allen gets hurt, I just don't see how they don't win the division. I like the Patriots. I think they're going to finish second, and maybe if everything goes great, they can challenge the Bills, but my Dolphins have taken a big step back talent-wise. The Jets have Justin Fields at quarterback. Like, this is really a one-horse race, and unless the Bills open the door, the Patriots, I don't think they're going to be close enough, so it's Buffalo.
All right, the AFC North, you've got Baltimore, Cincinnati that's got a great quarterback. They're still wondering about their defense. Cleveland, which is mostly a disaster, and then Aaron Rodgers is now with Pittsburgh joining a very good defensive ball club. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going Baltimore to run it back. I just think collectively, you look at their roster, they just don't have the holes that other rosters in the division have. I think the Bengals could have a resurgence, but that defense, man, look at the Ravens' defense compared to the Bengals. I'll go with the Ravens to get it done again.
All right, AFC South, Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans.
You know, here's the thing, Chad, is I want to pick someone other than the Texans, but the deal is I think that I'm lower on the Texans because I see them make it to the playoffs, and then they get smacked around, and I'm like, the Texans aren't very good. Who else do you think in that division would get to the playoffs and look better? You know what I mean? I want to take Jacksonville. I really do. I think that blessed with better health, they can seriously challenge to win that division. But I think that Houston is just the class of the AFC South. It's a cesspool of a division, but they've got the most going for them with their pass rush. You have Derek Stingley Jr., and you've got C.J. Stroud that he went downhill, and he still won 10 games.
Yeah.
So if he takes a step forward, I think they're going to be too much. I'll go with the Texans.
You know, I'm puzzled by Jacksonville. I refuse to believe that Trevor Lawrence is not possibly a great quarterback, but yet they've just underachieved. Like, I'm expecting a bounce back. I don't know what that means, but I expect them to play better. A lot to prove for Lawrence this year, right?
They do. And look, man, he's surrounded by a pretty good supporting cast.
Yeah.
When you've got Brian Thomas Jr. is a dude, and you've got Travis Hunter to throw to now. They picked up De'Ami Brown. That's pretty good. That three is pretty decent right there. So we got to see more from Trevor Lawrence, no doubt.
All right, Bino. AFC West, maybe the toughest division in all of football. Denver coming off a 10-win season. You've got Kansas City that's coming off another Super Bowl. The Raiders, who have been a rudderless ship, now have Tom Brady advising, and they got Pete Carroll, who knows how to rebuild programs. and you've got the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. What do you think?
Absolutely love the Chiefs. Love them. Look, man, they got crushed in the Super Bowl. The first half was a disaster.
Ugh.
But I think a lot of people have taken their criticism too far with this team, where they get Rashee Rice back, they get Hollywood Brown back healthy. Like, that's right. Just start with that. They had a defense that was top 5 scoring defense in the NFL. Now they're bent, that they got crushed on the biggest stage. And now you got all these people doubting them. Like Emmanuel Acho the other day was talking about, hey, maybe this is the beginning of a 10-year Super Bowl drought. And it gets far more negative than that. So I think that the Chiefs are going to be in absolute pain this year. I like their roster more than any other roster in the division. I think they run it back. Gambling, Chad, the Chiefs at -120 to win the AFC West.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just trying not to parlay that with every other bet I make right now. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just going by, I'm going to trust my instinct. I said it a while ago, years ago, when you have Patrick Mahomes, you are head and shoulders above the rest. He's so good.
Yeah.
And with him, he can cover a multitude of sins. So I'm with you on that. I just don't see another team, uprooting them out of the top spot in the West. And right now, I would lean Kansas City to make it back to the Super Bowl because of Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Yeah, and think of all these people selling their Chiefs stock because they got rolled in the Super Bowl. What happened the last time they got rolled in the Super Bowl?
Yes, they bounced back.
They bounced right back.
Yeah.
So I don't expect that to change.
All right, NFC East, very interesting. Dallas and New York, but then you've got Philadelphia, who is loaded up, coming off the Super Bowl win. And then the Commanders with a great young quarterback, really their first year with a brand-new ownership group, coaching staff, rookie quarterback. They were fabulous. What do you think about the NFC East?
You know what? I'm going to go with Washington. This is my first non-repeat division winner from last year.
I like it.
All the same from the AFC, but I've got Washington. You haven't had a repeat winner since Philly did that, like in 04, 05. Like that's a long,
that's crazy.
2 decades.
Yeah.
And I think that the Eagles on paper still look really good, but they lost their offensive coordinator. What if Saquon Barkley, after a 2,000-yard season, over 400 carries, including the playoffs? That's a lot of wear and tear, Chad. What if he's a lesser version? What if he gets banged up? What if this is a DeMarco Murray type situation over here, right?
Yeah.
Where he had a huge workload and then really fell off. And they lost a lot of defensive talent. 8 defensive players that made an impact last year are gone. That's a lot. And so I buy Jaden Daniels. I'll take Washington to win this division.
All right. In the North, you got the Bears, who have a new coach, and they really went out and made efforts to beef up the offensive line. Detroit, decimated by injuries, should be healthy going into the year. Green Bay and Minnesota, tough division in the NFC North. What do you think?
Man, I want to go with someone other than the Lions because their schedule is just
it's brutal.
Their road schedule is insanity. But I just look at the Lions and I'm like, they won 15 games and were so banged up. They get Aiden Hutchinson back, among many others. If they're blessed with better health, I think they're going to win this division. I would go with the Packers to finish in second. I'm skeptical of the Vikings with J.J. McCarthy as a first-year starter. There are huge expectations for this guy to hit the ground running. Got a great supporting cast. They just won 14 games. He hasn't thrown an NFL pass yet, and we're expecting the world from the guy immediately. So I'm skeptical of the Vikings. I'll go with the Lions and Packers to finish 1-2.
All right, 2 more divisions. NFC South, Falcons, Panthers, Saints, and Bucks.
I think the Bucks run it back. I just like what they have collectively. Their offense is so tough. I think it's Tampa. All
right. In the West, Arizona, the Rams, the 49ers, and the Seahawks.
It's a tough division, Chad. Our guy Brock Purdy and the Niners, they have a cake schedule.
Oh,
and they
it's so
very
brutal.
well might win the division.
Easy.
So easy. And I really like the Rams as well. I'm going to go curveball. This is my, dark horse special. I'll go with the Arizona Cardinals to win the division. I love Trey McBride. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. can really take a big step forward with this offense. And then the defense. Jonathan Gannon has coached up the defense. They were number 1 in scoring offense in the division last year, number 2 in scoring defense. And I like some of the upgrades they made in the offseason. So I'll go with the Arizona Cardinals to surprise and win the West.
All right, Bino. By the way, Detroit's road schedule, their easiest road game might be against the Rams.
It's a joke. You just run right through it. It's like, holy hell, this is like, it's insanity.
Yeah, you're going to lose some flesh no matter how well you play on that schedule. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, my brother. Dude, you sound great. And I love that, man. 2 segments strong with you, Bino. Thank you.
That was amazing, Chad. I appreciate the extra skating time.
Woo!
Always great talking sports with you, buddy.
All right, brother. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds good, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, Bino, Fox Sports Radio. Aaron Fentress going to jump on board at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, 5 o'clock. What's up, my friends? Your Portland Trailblazers will kick off Summer League action down in Vegas on Friday as they meet the Golden State Warriors. Tip-off will be at 8, and you can watch it on ESPN2. Checking the Major League scoreboard right now. Some games that went final. The Dodgers have now dropped 6 straight. They fall to the Brewers in 10 innings by a final of 3-2. White Sox 2, Blue Jays 1. Phillies rout the Giants 13-zip. Tampa Bay 7 and Detroit 3. The Mets and Orioles were postponed. Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian going to talk ball with me coming up at 5:20. More of the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing coming at you right now. All right, last week we had Jason Fellman in studio to talk about Hairfest, the mother of all tribute festivals, coming up July 17th through the 19th out at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds in Canby, Oregon. Of the bands that will be represented in the tribute festival, Stone and Love, which is a Journey tribute band, Taken by the Sky, Fleetwood Mac, Hysteria, Def Leppard, Eagle Eyes putting on Eagles music, Best of Both Worlds, Van Halen cover, Petty Fever, little Tom Petty action, Shoot to Thrill, AC/DC, Judas Rising, Judas Priest, of course, Barracuda for Heart, Jar of Lies, Alice in Chains, Dr. Crew, Motley Crue, Good Times Roll, The Cars. The Ozzy tribute band is Crazy Train, Whitesnake, Saints and Sinners, Beastie Boys, Grand Royale, Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark, Bruce Springsteen, Lucky Town, Fighting Foos, the Foo Fighters, for Foreigner, the Jukebox Heroes, Kiss, Almost Human, 80s Hair Rock Shop, Band After Midnight, the ABBA tribute band, Hall & Bros, which Fellman is a part of, little Hall & Oates action, and Doobie Brothers. And they've got Tribute 2, the U2 cover band. It's all coming to Hairfest, the mother of all tribute festivals. Well, this is a great Van Halen song. I was thinking about this the other day. I was making a list of my favorite songs from all these different artists that I like. And I was going to tweet it out. I was putting the list together when my son was driving us down to Corning, California, of all places. But I just decided not to put it out on social because I thought, why would people give a rat's ass what my favorite song is from every band? But I think this might be my favorite Van Halen song, Summer Nights. Give me some volume, Shacker. I would say that this right here, this is like vintage Van Halen. I think they had a string when Sammy Hagar joined the band. I think it was 5 straight #1 albums. It was 4 or 5 straight #1s. Like they, for over a decade, were just white hot. All right, if you'd like a pair of tickets for Hairfest in Canby at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds, July 17th to the 19th, fire away right now. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I want to hear from an ABBA fan. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Call now. We'll take caller number 1. First caller through will get tickets for Hairfest, the mother of all tribute festivals. 503-248-0620. It's a great show. A lot of big action. 503-248-0620. Call now. I want to hear from a Van Halen fan. Do you like summer nights? 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And we'll have more tickets to give away for Hairfest throughout the course of the week. 503-248. Call now! 248-0620. Fire away. All right. Where is that? I've got it written down here. Just something to keep an eye on in regard to LeBron James, the Lakers, and the Dallas Mavericks. You know, there have been whispers that have been floating around right now that maybe, possibly, LeBron James could be on the move to the Dallas Mavericks. So the most interesting note of late, Phil Handy, he was an assistant with the Cavs back in 2016, and he's been a Lakers assistant since LeBron went there. Phil Handy just joined the Mavs coaching staff. So that's one of those maneuvers that no one really pays attention to. But if you look at the connections and you start to connect the dots, this could be kind of a foreshadow of what's coming. And there have been talks about LeBron possibly going to Dallas. I mean, that's the conversation that's out there. So just something to keep an eye on. You could have kind of a reuniting of power between LeBron and Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. And it would give the Lakers an opportunity to really move forward with Luka. And that's kind of the sticking point for LeBron James right now is that, you know, he's in L.A. He probably wants to stay in L.A. His son is with the Lakers, but the Lakers are in a different place right now. New ownership group is coming in. They made the move to get Luka Doncic, and now they've got to focus on the future and building the team around Luka because he's the number one. He's option 1A. And it's no longer LeBron's team. And so what do you do there? But just keep that in mind. Phil Handy, longtime assistant who's been connected with LeBron now for years, has just agreed to join the staff there in Dallas. And I think LeBron, if there's anywhere he's going to go, the connection in Dallas with Jason Kidd, with Kyrie Irving, with Anthony Davis, it would make a lot of sense. And then all of a sudden you look, you got AD, you got Kyrie, you got Cooper Flagg, you got LeBron. That would be interesting. So we shall see. But just something to keep an eye on. And there's been a lot of potential trade proposals floating around out there. But it would give a way for each team to move forward. So there you go. That's just one little thing to keep an eye on. Now, with the Trailblazers, they're getting ready for Summer League action. Now, I'm like most of you, like I don't really enjoy watching Summer League basketball, just the overall product itself. Like it's not fabulous basketball, but I definitely will tune in when there's a new player that I want to see. When the Blazers have a youngster that I want to check out, like Scoot Henderson, who played like a total of 2 minutes at Summer League, I mean, I'm going to tune in and watch. And with young Hansen, I'm just curious to watch him ball. Very curious to watch him ball. Now, Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report, put out a piece. He had a chance to speak with Hansen and get his thoughts coming off of his first Summer League practice. And Highkin wrote this. The first thing young Hansen noticed about NBA Summer League practices as opposed to the ones he had with the Qingdao Eagles, is that they're more, quote, civilized. Still physical, yes, but not as cutthroat. Quote, according to Hansen, they play hard, but they're civilized. Hansen went on to say, quote, if I make a good pass, I get an assist, and my teammate gets 2 points, that's really good. But for a highlight pass, I can't try every time or else Chauncey will curse me out. Highkin went on to say his first live run with the Blazers Summer League team, which includes Ryan Rupert, City Siasco, Caleb Love, and a group of non-roster players hoping for training camp invites, had a steep learning curve, but it was more good than bad. Quote, it looked like his first practice, according to Ronnie Burrell, one of the Blazers' assistants. The talent level at his size is always going to stand out and be impressive. He was impressive, but there are also things he's going to learn really quickly. He's expected to have some struggles, and also have some success, but he's looked good today. Heike went on to say, since getting to Portland, Young has gotten to meet a few of his teammates, Denny Avdia, Donovan Clingan, Shaden Sharp, and Tamani Kamara. More of them will be joining the group in Las Vegas. Burrell went on to say, quote, I can't imagine being in his shoes. This is all new to him, the language, the culture at his age. He handles it amazing. I'm really impressed with him. The kid has maturity, and he's got character. He's picking up things really fast. And according to what Sean was able to gather, his teammates are taking notice. Ryan Rupert, quote, he's great. He's a great passer. He's learning very fast. I was pretty surprised. He's got great footwork. He is going to be great. Very interesting. Now, in regards to the conversation or being able to pick up on some of the nonverbal communication, Hansen said, quote, it's difficult. I try to use English or the English that I know. I know more basketball words than regular words, so I can talk more with my coaches and teammates, and my coaches and teammates will help me learn more English. And that goes back to, what Chauncey Billups said at that introductory press conference where they welcome Hansen in. Someone asked, and appropriately, about the language barrier. How difficult is that to have a player that doesn't speak English, but you're trying to communicate certain concepts to him? And Chauncey made a good point that basketball is a universal language. And I think what he meant by that is that when you're on the floor with your teammates, all five guys, there are certain things that you can communicate that Hansen's going to understand instinctually without having to spell it out in English. Like that look you give someone, or the point, to make a cut, that look that someone gives you when they're going to make a backdoor cut, the pick and roll, all those things that, and you've all experienced that too. How often are you out there on the floor where you know what your teammate or your buddy's thinking, and it's not a spoken word, but you just know by being out there on the floor playing, right? It's unspoken, but you know it, you can feel it, you can sense it. So that's the way I see that, and I think that's why my guess would be Hansen will be more comfortable on the basketball floor than he will be in other situations as he's continuing to learn the language and the culture. I mean, I was talking to someone this morning, and can you imagine, like, putting yourself in his position? Think back to when you were 20 years old. I'm doing that right now in my mind. When I was 20. Now imagine yourself at 20 traveling across the world into a totally different nation, country, town. Your surroundings are different. The culture is totally different. You don't speak the language. And oh, by the way, you're one of the biggest prospects to come out of your country, and you're playing NBA basketball. So you're playing against competition at the highest level in a brand new country. You don't speak the language, and you feel that pressure as a 20-year-old. I mean, good gracious. That's where I would wilt and fail. But Hansen, it's nice to hear these early reports. But the skill level, clearly the Blazers think he is an elite passer. And that's something that Rupert noticed right away. So can't wait to watch him play and see what sticks out. But again, I don't take Summer League too seriously either, because it's a different type of game. All right, Aaron Fentress, Oregonian, is going to join me next. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
I got Aaron's number. I can call him in a bit. Would you want to talk Van Halen? That's the guy, line 3. Got a Van Halen fan.
All right, Aaron Fentress, Oregonian, going to join me here in just a moment. But I think we have another Van Halen lover out there. Let's go to Vancouver. Justin's up on the Rip City Drive. Justin, what's on your mind? Fire away.
Are you serious? Van Halen? Oh my God, I seen them in 1979 in Medford, Oregon when I was in high school. There isn't anything better. And I can remember when we were playing music back here in the 80s. And Seafood Mama was around, and all of a sudden they left, and they come back, and their recorder flashed, and they're out on the road with Sammy Hagar, and then Sammy ends up in Van Halen. Are you kidding me? There's nothing better than Van Hagar.
Hey, Justin, let me ask you a question. What was it like back in the day in the 70s when you saw him the first time watching Eddie Van Halen operate the guitar on stage?
Oh, dude, I was there, and it was so amazing. And I'm a guitar player. I played in a lot of bands back in the 80s here in Vancouver and Portland. And I said to myself that day, I said, if I'm going to play guitar, I'm going to play guitar like this guy. And I can imitate him, but I'm no Edward Van Halen by any it's just imitation. But to hear you in summer nights, I can remember back then, had, the Camaro with the T-tops off and cruising and Van Halen playing, KGON at the concerts. It was just the best time ever.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate you acknowledging that. And thank you for taking my call. And like I said, thank you so much.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate that phone call, Justin. That's a big musical ever right there. It's fun growing up going to concerts. I remember my first Def Leppard back in 92 when I had just started my senior year. Like I said, my mom was straight and narrow, so she was very particular about what I could and could not go and attend. So finally, when I got older, I could start attending shows. All right, very happy to welcome back to the show from the Oregonian, Mr. Aaron Fentress. What was your first concert, and how old were you, Aaron?
You mean your mom didn't let you go see Vanity 6 at 12?
Dude, I tried to get her to let me go see Hall & Oates back when I was probably about 10 or 11. I wanted to go with my cousin Darren, and she's like, no, you're not old enough yet. So I had to wait.
What? So
Yeah.
for Hall & Oates, you heard that song Man Eater. She's like, yeah, nah, bro.
Actually, it was
Can't
Family
go.
Man, and she heard Family Man, and she confiscated my H2O album and said, that's inappropriate, son, and I don't want you listening to it. Yeah? Hardcore, baby.
Man, and look, it didn't work. Look how you turned out.
I know. She tried to bar me from listening to it, and now look, man, I can't get enough.
Amazing.
Well,
My first concert was New Edition in '84. I saw them in Rhode Island. The same summer, I ended up seeing the Jackson's Victory Tour in New York.
Oh, you saw the Victory Tour? Oh,
Yeah,
how good was
at
that?
Madison Square.
Oh.
It was pretty amazing.
Did you see
yeah, that was
Michael
my first
as a
concert.
solo artist? Did you ever see Michael solo?
So his Bad Tour was his first solo tour, and I had tickets to 2 nights in Tacoma, and he got sick.
Oh,
So he canceled the 3 night. He had 3 tickets. Excuse me, 3 shows in Tacoma. I had tickets to 2. He canceled those 3 and canceled a few dates in L.A. that were right after Tacoma. They're the last 2 stops, I think, of that tour. And he rescheduled the L.A. shows and not the Tacoma shows.
Interesting.
So here's the bad part. I'm in college. I'm at Portland State at the time, and one of the pairs I paid $150, I think, for the pair, which was a lot back. That's $1988, and that was way over face value. And the other pair, I think I got the other pair just for a regular price. So I sent one pair back to get my money, and I kept the $150 pair because I couldn't return it because it was scalped. So I still have that pair of tickets that I paid for back then. He never came back to Tacoma. I'll never forgive him. I've been waiting all these years. I was waiting all those years to see him, and I was going to tell him.
Wow. You know, I was thinking about you over the weekend. I listened to an extended interview that I had not seen before with Quincy Jones. And I didn't know this, but when Michael and Quincy first wanted to start working together, there were a lot of people around Michael that were trying to tell him, no, don't do Quincy. He's too jazzy. It's not going to work. They didn't like the pairing. And Quincy said that, hey, all you have to do is tell me that I can't get something done, and it brings fuel to my fire, and the rest is history. Love that.
Yeah, they met on the set of The Wiz, and Michael was looking for a producer.
Yeah.
And he asked Quincy, why don't you just do it? And the record company told him first. They told him no. They thought he was too jazzy. And he was like, wait a minute, I could do anything. I mean, he had done everything to that point as it was. But a good producer is a good producer. Just because you might have produced a lot of jazz doesn't mean that's all you can produce.
Yeah.
And the reality is that jazz is more sophisticated than pop.
Yeah.
So he brought a level of sophistication to the Off the Wall and Thriller album that might not have existed otherwise. But I saw something the other day, and I don't know if this is true, but apparently maybe Maurice White from Earth, Wind & Fire was someone that the record company wanted to maybe produce Michael's first album. That could have been interesting. But would he have made him sound too disco? That would have been the wrong direction. So who knows?
Interesting. It's Aaron Fentress here on the Rip City Drive. A lot of things I want to talk with you about. Let's start with Drew Holiday. You know, this trade, after it became official with the moratorium period over, we found out that the Blazers were going to keep 2 second-round picks because apparently in the physical there was some, injury concern. I don't know what the specifics of that are, but how much of a red flag is that you give up 2 second-round picks because Drew Holiday may not be as healthy as the Blazers first thought?
You mean that Boston gives up taking the 2?
Yes.
It's interesting. The Blazers are saying that it's not significant. I'm going to believe them because if it was something significant, why on earth would you do this? But clearly it was something that made them say, okay, Boston, we're not going to give you these second-round picks on top of this.
Yeah.
I think it's smart to do that at least because I'd still be scared from the Robert Williams thing, to be honest with you. Right? Because Boston knew what they were doing there. But the whole thing, I liked it initially because I thought that they were going to continue to make moves like that to get flat out better with an urgency to really make sure that you can, get to 500 or better and have a shot at the postseason, and whether it's the last play-in or whatever. But with Ayton, being dumped for nothing, I just don't feel like they're better. Young Hansen, we'll see. I don't believe he's going to be ready to come in and contribute to being a legitimate backup center right away. And the offseason isn't over. They need shooting. They have to add 2 guys who can shoot, guaranteed 38 to 40% from three-point range, because they had one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the NBA last year, and you got rid of your best three-point shooter. So that's dicey. Now, Holiday back in Milwaukee was a more productive offensive player. Clearly, he can return close to that. Don't judge him by what he did in Boston, because in Boston, obviously, he was playing in a role behind 2 All-Stars, right?
Yeah.
So, he can give you some offense. He's 35, man. He missed 20 games last year. And he's got a lot of mileage on him. So can you count on him coming in and providing that scoring boost and playing enough games to make up for losing Simon's scoring, especially if Scoot and Shaden don't make a huge leap? Everything's kind of relying on those two and Klingon and everyone else to continue to grow, which you hope to see, but is it going to be enough to allow you to actually win in that conference? Because that conference is scary. And it seemed like every team in the league, in the conference at least, made a move to get better.
Yeah.
Did they not? Phoenix lost Durant, but I think they're better with Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. I think that was a win-win trade. I think Houston got better. I think Phoenix got better. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it right now. I just want to see if they make more moves or not.
Yeah, the West is a very deep conference, very deep. All right, what'd you make of the pick of Young Hansen? I got to be honest with you, Aaron. Like, I follow basketball pretty closely. Never heard of the guy when the Blazers selected him. Had no idea.
So I'd only heard of him because he did work out. And so I did a post on the workout that he was involved in. And that day we talked to Asa Newell and Jace Richardson. And there might have been one other guy we talked to that day. I can't remember. But that workout was pretty loaded. They had 5 we talked to Rashida Fleming? I can't remember. I can't remember. Anyway, he was there too. So 5 guys who were projected first rounders. Fleming was the only one of the 5 who didn't go in the first round, but he went 32nd. Right, so it was a pretty good workout. We knew Hansen was there, but they weren't going to make him available. 1, he was considered a second-round pick, and you had a bunch of first-rounders there. And 2, he didn't speak English. What was the point, right? So But I told Cronin after the draft, I said, dude, you got me. Because I had done many profiles on probably 15 guys who worked out. So I'm thinking, okay, they're going to draft one of those 15, and then I plop in the info from that, maybe reword it a little bit, top it, boom, I got my first post up right away. Dude, of course, I hate when people do this. People in the draft room are following Twitter. I hate that. I almost said something. If you're listening next year, don't do that. Just let us watch the draft. I don't need you telling me what you saw on Twitter. I can't stand that crap. Oh, it's going to be so-and-so. Just who cares, man? Anyway. I remained professional, didn't say anything. But someone says Jan Hansen is the guy, and then someone else gasps, and I'm thinking, wait, who, what? And then TV announced it, and I'm thinking, wait, what just happened? Hold on a second. And so I went and looked, and I known he had been shown as a potential second-round guy. And so I went and found him my Bleacher Report or something at 40th or something like that, and Yahoo had him at 38th or I don't know, something like that. And I'm just like, wow, this is fascinating. So then I had to sort of scramble to get some more information on him, to get my post up, et cetera, et cetera. But, here's the thing. I know a lot of people freaked out. But the reason we freak out is because of these mock drafts.
Yes.
Mock drafts are for entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
Now, when I was younger, when I was a Bears fan, I bought all the magazines every year for the draft. I just sit there draft day and watch the entire thing on Saturday and watch it on Sunday. I had draft parties with friends of mine who were into it. We'd have all the different books out. We'd be going through it. And you're looking at the mock drafts like, oh, they say this guy's the 15th best prospect. We got him at 22nd. You think you got a steal, right? But that stuff's for entertainment. It's got some information in it, but it doesn't necessarily reflect what the actual people who were going to make these picks think. Now, in some cases, yes, they're going to be, you're going to match them up. But once you get into late in the first round and into the second round, like that stuff's just all up in the air. And so if you think in your head, oh, they're going to take Newell or they're going to take Carter Bryant or they're going to take, this guy or that guy, and then all of a sudden you hear Jan Hansen out of China, yeah, you're going to be like, whoa.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they put in the work. And so you just have to say, look, I told you what work I put in, but then I wrote many profiles on some dudes they brought in for workouts. And I joked with a couple people with the Blazers, actually, after the combine, or middle of the combine. I texted them. I said, who you guys like so far? And both an individual text conversation said, it's too early for that. I go, why? I've already read like 5 articles and watched 30-second clips on 10 guys. I like these 2 guys. I don't know why this is so hard. And they both responded, with laughing emojis. They knew I was joking.
Yeah.
But they put in the work. They put in hours and hours and hours into this stuff. And they've been following this guy for 20 months. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they know what they're doing. Now, the other thing is, you got to be honest. Picks 11 through 30, the vast majority of them are going to fail.
Agree. Yes.
I think it's totally therapeutic for fans. And I'm a Bulls fan, right? So I'm not criticizing Blazers fans because I've done this stuff with my teams. When Theo Epstein came to the Cubs and was tearing it down that first year, I was sitting there going, no, if this happens and that happens and that, we could be good. They weren't. They were bad because Theo Epstein was trying to be bad. But anyway, my point is it's therapeutic to go look at those past drafts because you'll look at the list and you go, oh, 8 guys that went 15 through 23 that you've never heard of again, right? Because they're not in the league. So if they were to quote unquote miss on this guy, I guarantee you those picks 11 through 30, 20 of them will not be a factor in the NBA. 4 of them might end up being starters. 2 might end up being stars, and another 3 might be okay. That's usually how the math works in these things. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they studied this guy and that they believe that he is at a better risk than anyone else in that range. They saw him in person, and apparently he destroyed in that workout against those guys who went in the first round. So we'll see what happens. I do think it's going to be a project, though. Like, I don't think he's going to come right in and be an impact player. He's got some skills, man. It's not like the guy made some pretty nice passes. So he's got good core vision. He's got that going for him. Let's just see how it works out.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate the conviction to go out and get your guy, even if you're not selecting him where everyone else thinks you should. I did want to ask, with the Oregon Ducks, I saw their win total in Vegas. I think it's at 9.5. But what are you hearing and what are you seeing? Do you think Dante Moore is ready to step in and take over now as the guy at quarterback?
Everything I've heard in that regard, and I haven't, paid as much attention to it as I used to back in the day, but is that, yeah, he's shown them since he's been there that he's got the goods. And I think that the fact that they did not go out and buy another quarterback is all you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because once this whole system changed, like 3 years ago on Talking Ducks, I said, if I'm Oregon, I never put a lot of effort into recruiting quarterback again. I look at a few kids, I make some offers. If they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. Because at any point in time, I can just go stand on a mountaintop with a big giant bag of money, look around the country, and go, yeah, I'll take that guy.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yes.
It's true. And we're seeing it happen all over the place. And they just did it. They did it with Bo Nix. And then Bo's gone, and they go out and they get Dylan Gabriel, right? So the fact, though, that they said, okay, this time we're not going to go get a guy. We're going to stick with this dude is all you need to know about their confidence in him. And clearly he was a five-star kid coming in. He struggled at UCLA, which is okay because he was a true freshman. Guys who don't struggle as freshmen are freaks. You know, you're supposed to struggle. It's supposed to be hard.
Yes.
So he did struggle, and then he got to sit last year behind Dylan, which is a great educational experience, and they've shown enough to where they like him. I've also heard that Novosad is close. Like this is like they like him too. I'm surprised he didn't bail though. I do believe if Dante does stranglehold the position and delivers, that Novosad will be gone after this year. But the word on him is pretty good as well. So it seems like the quarterback position is in good hands with those two. We just haven't seen proof of that yet. But we've been here before, you know. No one knew who Darren Thomas was when Masole got kicked out of the program. We heard the rumors about Marcus, and no one knew the truth until we saw him play. Herbert came out of nowhere. A three-star kid was supposed to redshirt. Next thing you knew, that guy was throwing for 6 touchdowns at Cal. So let's see what happens with this kid. But apparently they like him a lot.
All right, final question for you. Is Jeremy Grant going to be on the roster when the season begins?
Dude, can I just say something about this? So when they signed Jeremy Grant and Max Matisse in Vegas 2 years ago,
yeah,
I was at a press conference and I asked a question. I was like, does this mean you guys are trying to win? And like Jeremy Grant took the mic and like slid it to Joe. And then Matisse made a face and went like, wow, mouthed wow. Because I also said, you guys are supposed to tank. I mentioned the tank thing.
Yeah.
And then people took that clip and like put it on Twitter, like making fun of me and mocking me and ripping me up. And it was like, I couldn't believe it because I'm like, what are you people smoking? This is a legit question. What are they doing? Davis demanded a trade and you're going to give a 5-year, $160 million contract to the guy you went out and got to help Dame who's 30. It didn't make any sense. And then you match Matisse, who was trying to leave. So what are you doing? And looking back at it, it's like, yeah, what were you doing? Because now you can't give Grant away. No one wants him. Not because he's a horrible person, but because he's attached to $104 million or something like that. And he's 31 now. And he just had a horrible season for him. And I think he'll bounce back from that. But it's one of the things they did that didn't really make any sense. Because if you're going to do that, then you got to go get other people to win with. Otherwise, what are you doing? And so now they just let Ayton walk. I don't think they're going to do that with Grant, but I don't think anyone's taking him unless you have to give him maybe all of the Bucks picks and swaps to make someone take him. So, could they do the stretch provision with him, which is what Milwaukee just did with Dame? I guess that's possible. If he has 3 years remaining, you got to go 4 years. You'd have $25 million a year on your books for 4 years. That doesn't make any sense. So, look, I think they have to win next year. And that's why I don't understand the Aiden thing, and I don't understand completely not just trading that first round pick to try and get another veteran, because a new owner is coming, man, and there's no telling what a new owner is going to do. And if a new owner comes in, or he or she, and is like, oh, you're on your 5th straight losing season, and you had 4 lottery picks, 4 off seasons, you traded Dame and CJ, and you still aren't good, why are they keeping whomever's in charge that they didn't hire? They just spent $3.8 billion on the franchise. So to me, you keep Grant because Grant's going to help you win. Whether he starts or not, Grant's still a really good player when he's focused and on, and he can score. He's a high-end defender. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer to your question, but they don't want him on the roster, but they have no choice. Yes, he's going to be there.
Interesting. I just figured the reason why they gave him the contract was twofold. One, I thought there was probably assurances given to Clutch when the trade was made that they would take care of him. And then they probably didn't want to let him slip away for nothing. So you sign him so you have that piece to work with. But now with the new CBA, it's more difficult to move.
Yeah, but and that's fine. But my thing is, if you're gonna do that, make other moves to try and win games. Otherwise, what are you doing? Like to me, if you're not trying to win basketball games, why do you keep someone around who's already over 30, making $30 million? And then they just traded. I like the Holiday pairing with a motivated Ayton and Grant and Denny. They got 4 veterans, and then you got your youngsters. But now with Ayton just gone, what is Holiday supposed to do? He's supposed to make up for losing Ant and Grant at 35 years old. He missed 20 games last year. The roster doesn't make any more sense than it ever did. So you got Grant and Holiday locked up for 3 more years at $220 million. Tell me how that makes any sense. And you have guys on your roster that I assume they want to start over those 2 guys.
Who's starting at point guard?
I don't know.
Who's going to start at point?
I mean, I can't. How do you not start Holiday at the 1 or the 2? Are you telling me that the $35 million 2-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA guy, 2-time champion is coming off the bench between both those guys? If he is, it better be because he agreed to it 100% wholeheartedly, because they did that with Malcolm, and Malcolm was not happy. That guy Obama'd it in that he was a great speaker. He'd sit there with this amazing voice, and he'd say all the right things. I'm like, man, this guy should be a politician. And, but we knew. He didn't want to go for the 6th man of the year for the Boston Celtics trying to win a title to backing up a 19-year-old. Like, no one wants to do that. And so and he didn't. And he got out of here as soon as they could get rid of him. So is Holiday going to come here and want to be on this team if they're not serious about winning and getting their tails kicked in a lot? Even if they win 35 games, does he want to do that? I don't think he does. So I've never talked to him about it. Sources on the team have told me he's fine with it. I'll believe it when I see it. But again, he's 35, dude. If the core of your team that you're trying to win with is 21, 20, 24, and 25, what are you doing with a 35-year-old on your roster? And if he's the better guy, you got to play him, or there could be problems.
All right, we end the conversation with more questions. That's okay. Aaron Fentress, Oregonian, with us here talking some ball. Hey, it's nice to catch up with you, buddy. Enjoy your summertime, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Later.
Love him. There you go, Aaron Fentress. All right, Rip City Drive. We'll just keep things rolling here. A little radio for you. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We'll keep things rolling here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. not even needed. This is going to help you move forward with confidence. That's a good song. All right, big thanks to Aaron Fentress. I appreciate your time today. Tomorrow is that meeting that I've referenced over the last couple of weeks with my two bosses up in Olympia. So I'm out tomorrow, but Brendan Slaughter will be sliding in to take over the Rip City Drive. I couldn't get out of the ride. You know, my boss, as soon as I knew we were all going to meet up in Olympia, my boss was like, hey, I have a great idea. We should all ride together. And so tomorrow morning, I'll be picked up by my boss and another coworker, and I got stuck in the ride. I'm very much an individual when it comes to going places. I don't like being stuck in somebody else's car because that means you're stuck for the entire process. You can't sneak out. You know, you can't be by yourself, none of that stuff. I'm kind of a loner like that. But what I've found is that when you put yourself in those situations, a lot of times, even when you don't want to, you end up walking away saying, I'm glad I experienced that. So we'll see how things shake out tomorrow. Also, coming up on the 21st, it is the We Play Open out at Langdon Farms Golf Club that is put on by Alex Brink, former Washington State Cougar, and former Duck Ryan DePaulo. They will have all proceeds, 100% of the proceeds from the tournament and the auction, everything. It'll benefit the We Play Foundation, which is dedicated to giving access to all children, access to sports for all children. And it's going to be a good time. The weather, of course, in July is typically fabulous. Langdon Farms is in great condition, and the tournament is going to kick off at 1:45 shotgun start. So if you go to WePlayFoundation.org/events, it'll take you to the tournament page. You can sign up your foursome right now. You can sign up as a single, and there'll be a lot of great people out there, including yours truly. But it's a great tournament. It's a great cause. And, you know, Alex Brink he's really a good human being. You know, he's one of those guys that I enjoy being around. I enjoy talking with him, but he and Ryan are trying to do really good things in the community. And access to sports, I mean, you know it. Raise your hand if you've got a kid that participates in athletics. Every time you turn, more money is flying out of your pocket as a parent. It's expensive. You need another $100 for what? Oh, yeah. All right, big thanks to Aaron Fentress, to Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, to Michael Shacker for engineering the program. I appreciate you, buddy. And to all of you for listening, thank you.